Hi guys, welcome to Game Changers, the show that brings you off-menu barbecue. A few things that maybe you've never dreamt of, and a couple that you've definitely never thought of, cooked over fire. In this block of episodes, we're going to be approaching a few cuts and dishes that I'd say probably aren't as shocking as the last ones, but hopefully will bring something new to the table. So this week I'll be cooking hanger steak. Hanger steak is admittedly not the best looking piece of meat before it's processed, but I'm going to show you how to do that today. I'm going to show you how to cook it, and I'm going to show you why they call this cut the butcher's secret. First things first with the hanger steak, and that is these sinewy parts around the side. Similar to the ox heart, you've got quite a lot of kind of like fatty deposits and ultimately a few tubes and bits and pieces like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to take that off. Get yourself a really sharp knife. I'm using this small paring knife because it helps me get into sort of the little nooks and crannies of the meat, and then we'll be able to strip some of these side parts down and then expose the two pieces of meat in the middle. So first things first are these bigger fatty deposits on the side here. One may, if you were a little less shy, call them flaps. So I'm going to take these flaps off the meat. It looks a bit like a flying squirrel, doesn't it? So I'm going to take these off the meat, so with some nice clean cuts, and then strip that back, and then it will allow me to take some of these outer parts of, it's almost like skin type material. I'm going to be able to take that off, and honestly, trust me, there is some beautiful steak under there. So you'll see there, you'll see one side is slightly thinner than the other, so they are going to cook at different rates. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a nice clean cut right down the middle, and I'm going to cook them separately rather than cooking it together. Otherwise I'm going to have one side that cooks really quickly and one side that's not quite where I want it to be. So on this type of cut, because there's a little bit, or a fair amount actually, of intermuscular fat going through this, some people like it rare. For me, I would always go medium rare on a cut like this. I treat it in a very similar way as I treat ribeye. I mean, do you know what? Best way I can describe it. So functionally, this is, in terms of its processing, you could almost say that it's similar to a fillet, which is a very delicate cut with no fat in it. But I'd say in terms of the way it cuts, so don't be fooled, it cuts and it then cooks like bavette. So you can see there, it's got very defined grains within the meat, and bavette is something that they call, which is called skirt steak, which comes from like this part of the animal, and they call it goose wing, skirt, they call it bavette. There's a few names. Ultimately, it's a steak that needs little cooking but a lot of resting. So realistically, if you cook it for 5 minutes, you need to rest it for 9 or 10. I've got the Hellrzr set up in a way here, where all the heat is here and almost none of it is over here, like in this corner, but it's still warmish. So in some cases with resting, I'd take it out, wrap it in foil, maybe put it, you know, just somewhere semi-warm to kind of keep it, you know, servable. But with the Hellrzr, all the heat's over here. So what I can do is I'll use the grill adjuster and I will move this grill right to the top. So I'll wrap it and then just leave them there, and it'll be able to keep them warm, because then when that's closed, it'll just be a nice gentle heat up here. Okay. If I hadn't got this, I'd just wrap it in foil, and you know, I'd either put it like right at the back of the grill if the embers were dying down, because if you're getting a lot of indirect heat on there, that's still no good because it's going to continue cooking it. With this, I've got the ambient sort of heat at the top, a nice gentle one. So I mean, you could put it in an oven that you've put at 80 degrees, or you know, just if you wrap it in really thick foil, a lot of the time it's not going to lose a hell of a lot of temperature anyway. So thick foil, and then just don't put it in the fridge. So usually at this point, we take you through a list of ingredients and tell you what I'm going to do with it. Super simple with this. I'm going to cook it, then I'm going to rest it, then I'm going to season it before I serve it. I want to taste the beef, and I don't want any sort of, I don't want anything interfering with that. So that's all we're going to do with that this time.
Why are you not seasoning it before you cook it?
Very good question. Basically with this type of cut, I don't like doing any of that because A, You're going to singe the majority of the seasoning off with the way I'm going to cook it anyway, because I'm going to cook it direct. And B, with this fat rendering and stuff, I don't really want to put like a salty crust on it. I just want it to be as is, and then we'll season it before we eat it. So we're not going to cook this for that long. We're going to a couple of minutes on each side, but with cuts like this, especially if you're cooking them whole, and large cuts like bavette, like I've just explained, 5 minutes cook time, 10 minutes rest time. They have to be rested properly, or you're not going to get the best out of the beef. So I'm going to take these off the coals now, get them into the foil. We've been cooking these for roughly 7 minutes. So what we'll do, we'll double that for the resting time, and then we'll be ready to serve. Okay, so the hanger steak is now done. All that's left to do is slice, season, and try it. So there we have it, perfectly cooked hanger steak. We've gone for a medium rare on that. Pretty much all that's left to do now is to get Clarky to try it and see if we can convert him this week into a new cut. What do you reckon? You have a go?
Yeah, definitely.
There we go. Just remember, I don't eat on camera.
Yeah, probably.
Do you get like a really beefy flavour? Like I say, it's not quite as delicate as say like a ribeye, but again, try that piece. That's
Yeah, it's lovely. It's got a chew to it without being rubbery. I think if probably someone might be watching me eat that, thinking is making that look difficult, but it's not. It's like
you want to chew it more because the amount of flavour you get from it.
Yeah,
if you just, I find sometimes with like, especially with like steaks like fillet, it's more about the sauce anyway. The steak's kind of uninteresting to me a lot of the time. But what I'll do with that is with fillet, you almost sort of like chew it for a couple of seconds and just swallow it. Whereas this, you can really enjoy the actual meat, and again, that's why I haven't messed around with it. It's just salt and pepper. And it's just salt and pepper because that's all you need.
Bit of crusty bread and butter. What?
There you go. So, all in all, I can say that was a big win from a Clarky perspective. I think we've got him onto a new one. So, how many wins is that now? So we've got tongue, hanger steak. Basically, stick to beef. I reckon I'll be able to get you to eat anything.
Yeah, because the chicken hearts didn't go down well.
Chicken hearts did not go down well, but that's your fault, not mine. Okay, so to recap, what we've done now is we've processed, we've cooked, and we've presented a lovely couple of pieces of hanger steak. It's really simple. It's literally a case of just being confident, getting rid of the sinewy bits, and you can have a really, really good meal for, I'll be honest, a fraction of the price of some of the more expensive cuts out there. So be brave, give hanger steak a go, and let me know what you think about it in the comments.